Hi, I'm David. Welcome to Wildlife in Focus. Identification of the rock pipit and the meadow pipit can seem confusing. In this guide, we step through the key features to look for so you can identify both of these bird species confidently. It turns out that the rock pipit features often overlap with those of the meadow pipits, meaning you need to consider several features in the field before deciding. This is undoubtedly one of the reasons there are difficulties in forming a positive ID. Some field guides aren't that helpful either, as they make the rock pipit sound like some form of ugly duckling with an outsized bill and murky plumage. These statements don't do the rock pipit any justice, as they are inaccurate, especially when you see the birds at close range. A strong indication of whether you are looking at a rock pipit or a meadow pipit is habitat. Rock pipits are never far from the edge of the water. Generally, this is coastal, but also inland lochs. They spend their time searching through weeds and algae for food. Meadow pipits, on the other hand, spend their time inland. However, care is needed as meadow pipits will travel to coastal areas, particularly towards the end of the year when food becomes more scarce in their natural habitat. The most definitive distinguishing feature can also be the hardest to spot. If you catch a glimpse of one of the hind claws, the rock pipit claw is roughly equal to the length of the hind toe, whereas the meadow pipit claw is significantly longer than the hind toe. The other features we are about to examine should be treated additively because, as we alluded, the rock pipit features sometimes overlap with the meadow pipit. Tonal differences. Both the rock pipit and the meadow pipit share similar brown coloration. However, the meadow pipit has an overall warmer tone to its feathers, whereas the rock pipit almost looks as though its feathers are covered in a layer of dust, giving it an overall cooler color cast. Back and crown markings. The meadow pipit has bold stripes on both its crown and running down its back and wing feathers, whereas the rock pipit from a distance can look like it has no stripes at all. Though, on closer inspection, they are present, just generally not as distinctive as on the meadow pipit. Both the rock pipit and meadow pipit have a bib. On the rock pipit, the bib tends to look more isolated as it's surrounded by darker brown feathers on its chest. Eye ring. Both meadow and rock pipits have a distinctive cream-coloured eye ring. There is a tendency for the rock pipit to be broken at each corner, whereas on the meadow pipit, the ring completely encircles the eye. Eye size. Considering now the proportions between the size of the head and the size of the eye. The meadow pipit's eyes often appear larger and more doughy-eyed than the rock pipit's eyes, which often appear smaller, giving the bird a more piercing look. Bill size. The bill of the meadow pipit is typically shorter than that of the rock pipit and appears slightly turned up, versus the rock pipit's bill, which is longer and more pointed, similar to that of a European robin bill. Vocalization. The rock pipit's voice is a little stronger than the meadow pipit, and they tend to utter a single or sometimes double note. The meadow pipit's voice sounds more timid and tends to utter a quick succession of repeated notes. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe if you want to see more like this. It really helps the channel.